You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast. As always, this is Daniel Barrett here from AdWordsNerds.com. How are you? Wonderful people. Hope you are doing well. I hope you are having a safe and happy and healthy week this week. This week, we've got quite the episode, and this is an interview with Corey Geary. Now, if you're not familiar with Corey is an investor. He's kind of located out in the Arizona area, sort of around the Phoenix, Tucson market. And the reason I wanted to have Corey on is that we actually got on a phone call. He asked me to do some consulting on his Google Ads. And so we were going through his Google Ads account, talking strategy, talking about how he could grow his kind of national reach. And while we're kind of talking, he sort of told me some things about his business. And he said, we're doing about 10 or 15 deals a month right now. And he's talking how his business has really adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I just knew I wanted to have him on because not only is Corey smart and funny and super fun to talk to, he's done an incredibly good job of adapting to the way the market is now. You'll hear this in the interview, but it basically says his business is 95% virtual right now. And if you are out there wondering about, how to make this work during this whole pandemic, if you're wondering about, how are you going to find buyers? If you're wondering about, how are you going to handle buying houses if you can't go out and visit them? This is the interview for you. This is stuff that's working right now in one of the most competitive markets in the United States from a real investor with boots on the ground. So without any further ado, let's get straight into this week's interview with Corey Geary. All right, everybody, this is Daniel Barrett, and I'm here with Corey Geary from TrueTopOffer.com, which I should say is True Top Offer with no E in the word true. So it's TRU topoffer.com. Corey, how are you, man? What's going on?
I'm doing great, man. Just trying to live the dream here through all this.
Yeah. We were talking about this a little bit before the show, and it's funny, I've had 5 calls today, and everyone has said, I'm living the dream. All right, we all dreamed someday we'd all be able to work from home and have so much free time, and now we do. So it's going to be back. Yeah, but for people who aren't familiar, I want to give you kind of a little bit of intro. You are kind of a national investor. You guys are buying houses kind of all over the country, and but you are kind of centered in the Arizona market. As you were talking about, sort of like the Phoenix, kind of Tucson area. But the reason I want to have you on is, we had a conversation. We had kind of a great time. Good, you're a real funny dude, real smart dude. So I want to have you on in general. But the thing that kind of really struck me was you seem to have done a really good job of adapting to the market as it is today with coronavirus and all this uncertainty. And I think there's a lot of people who are just very curious about what other investors are doing. So I definitely want to dig into that. Before we get into too much of the kind of current events, what got you started in real estate investing, right? Real estate investing is kind of a weird part of the world, weird part of the economy. So what was your into this industry?
The initial I would say, is just being a kid and kind of following my dad around because he was a real estate investor. He was a landlord and had plenty of properties. And I used to go help him paint the properties and help him lay carpet, whatever. I was cheap labor for him. So
yeah, the cheapest labor. Well, I don't know. You got to feed you and stuff, so maybe not. But up there for sure.
But at the time, I hated it because I hated going out and working on these properties, and I hated working as a kid. I wanted to be playing, but so that was kind of my introduction to it. So fast forward, got away from it. Kind of grew older, and then back in 2016, I worked a night job. I used to be a blackjack dealer. And I did that for 16 years, made great money. I was making 100, 140 grand a year.
Wow. Seriously? Yeah. Dealing blackjack?
Blackjack, because it's tip-based.
Oh, yeah.
It's tip.
All right.
It's like being a bartender in a high-scale nightclub. That's the best way I can compare it to compared to, because you can make a lot of money if you're paying the right people. So
yeah, that's true.
Did that for a long time. I'm really good at saving my money. So I saved a bunch of money, and literally, I mean, it's like in 2016. I'm sitting at home with my girlfriend. We're watching that show, Flip or Flop. And watching the flip happen, and she's like, and she's a realtor. And she's like, why don't you do that? I was like, I don't know. She's like, yeah, you could do that, and I can list your houses. That's literally how the conversation. That's how kind of, maybe I should do something like that. And then so that's what I did. I started buying a house here and there off of other wholesalers.
Yeah.
And fixing and flipping. My first fix and flip took me 6 months. I only made $8,000.
Yeah. Comes out to an hourly wage of like $7 an hour, something like that. Got it.
Stress level. I mean, I didn't sleep for like a month.
Yeah.
Push at the end. But so that's kind of how I got into it. And then, at one point I got really crushed. I got in over my head. I bought 4 houses at once. At that time, our current contractor he'd left the team, and then we got somebody new. That guy took us for a ride. We lost a bunch of money. It was unfortunate. I had a partner at the time. It crushed him. He got out of the business. And at that point, I just kind of pivoted, and then it's like, how do I get these deals? I want to keep doing this, but now I've lost a bunch of money. I need to figure something else out. And that's how kind of the shift came. Like, well, then I started looking up, just on Google, like how to get wholesale deals, how to get off-market properties. And then lo and behold, of course, Sean Terry pops up. And then,
yeah.
And then so I start going down that route of just learning how to, source my own off-market deals.
Yeah. Did you know that Sean's in Phoenix, right? So he was in the Phoenix. Did you know that at the time, or?
No, at the time I did not know. I didn't know. I just see all those videos all over YouTube. The guy's a great marketer. He's obviously doing a lot of PPC, SEO. You type in getting off market deals in Phoenix, and he's going to pop up. So now at the time, just bought into some of his beginner courses and went to his event that he had. I can't remember what it's called. I mean, it's Extreme Freedom. That's it. Went to 2016, and then started putting out bandit signs and started doing direct mail, the basics, and then that's how I started acquiring some deals. And then at first, as far as the wholesale, I had a JV with another big company out here to get the deal sold. But then eventually, learned how to, get our own cash buyers and get our own, investors that we could sell our deals to. So,
yeah. The thing that strikes me is, you're making $140K a year. You're sitting on the couch with your girlfriend and you kind of get this idea, right? And then you said like 6 months later, you made $8,000. You almost died, right? You weren't sleeping or whatever. You get some more deals, and then it's like, then you lose a bunch of money. And like you said, like your partner gets crushed, kind of leaves the business. What was driving you to keep at it and kind of stay in it, right? Because I can imagine that a lot of people in that situation would just be like, I'm just going to go back and like do the thing I was doing before, right? So what was the motivation to keep at it through those really kind of rough, objectively very rough times?
It's all mindset, I would say. I mean, I've always been a very determined person. Like when I want something or go after something, I'm going to do whatever it takes to try to get to that point and get what I was initially my goal or whatever I set my mind to. And it was tough, when we lost all the money. And that's exactly what my partner did. My partner's like, man, real estate's not for me. I'm done. I'm going back to dealing cards. This is it. And because he was a card dealer too. And I was like, no, man, the only way we're going to get our money back, for me in my head, the only way I can get my money back is if I keep pushing forward and not stop. If I stop at that moment in my life, in that moment of time, the money I lost, then it's gone forever. I don't recap that money from this business. The only way to recap the money of this business is to keep pushing forward and do more deals.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free 2019 Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
I mean, it's so fascinating to me, man, because there's so many stories. I mean, I've done this podcast for a while now. And, we really try to make a point of, we interview like 90% of the people we interview are active investors. They're not like coaches. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not gurus. And I think there's a lot of guru disdain or whatever in the industry, which I don't share. It's like, I've hired a bunch of coaches and I love those folks, right? But I always want to interview like real people, like got boots on the ground, skin in the game, all that stuff. I mean, the first thing that strikes me is like, almost everybody has this story where you're like, yep, like I just like completely wiped out and then I had to kind of like renew and do the thing. But it's so funny, man, because you're a card dealer. If I'm sitting at the blackjack table being like, I know I've lost a bunch of money, but I need to get it back by playing, by continuing playing. Yeah. You'd be like, oh, maybe not, like,
no.
No. It's just wild, man. But it's true. It's like entrepreneurially, you didn't do I think that's the secret, right? You didn't do the exact same thing. You were like, how do I now change what I'm doing in order to improve on it? So then you started doing different types of marketing and different strategies, and you didn't just keep doubling down on the thing that lost you the money in the first place. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really fascinating to me, man. And I love the explicit gambling connection, because it's like, there are so many connections between like risk taking in gambling and in entrepreneurship, but obviously like one is a good idea and one's not a great idea depending on who you are, right? So it's really fascinating to me. So let's kind of fast forward, like break down for folks like what you're doing now. Because you were saying like, we were talking about this before we kind of jumped on the call, where you have kind of like your local operation. You also have a national operation. So kind of break down what your company looks like today.
What it looks like today. So obviously the bulk of the operation is we're doing about 10 to 15 deals in Arizona. So I say Arizona because we're in the Phoenix metro area and in Tucson metro area, and doing deals pretty heavily in both of those markets. And then an occasional, we just sold a deal last week in Sholo, which is a little mountain town here in Arizona. So we get those kind of occasional deals that come through. So that's our bulk of our business. It's about 10 to 15 of those a month. We acquire most of those through RVM, text, and cold calling. So we do about 20,000 RVM a day, which is crazy.
A day?
A day. 20.
That's bonkers. So is that one per contact, or are you doing multiple voicemails per person?
One per contact. So I have over 1.5 million properties in my database now. I spent $90,000 last year on tracing and getting data built up into my database. So that way I can blast out as many text messages and RVMs that I want to do, cold calls, many people I need a cold call. And that's been the bulk of our strategy here locally to acquire deals, is all telecommunications. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. So when you are building the data set, you're saying like you're going out, you're getting people in your database. Was that kind of like, you're like, I know I have to invest this in order to make money on it later? Or you were just building that as you went?
Yeah, it's because we were doing the whole niche listing and pulling data every single month. And it's like I kept running into what I call the data wall, where you're sitting out so much RVM and text. And like you said, then you have to start hitting the same person over and over again because you got no one else to hit. And you're starting to, you need more. You just need more and more. And that was, so I was like, I called my guys. I'm very good friends with the guys over at Basket Tracing. And I called them and I was like, hey, guys, I need like the whole county. What can you do for
me? Just give me everybody that lives here.
I'm dealing with the data wall and having to re-pull more data and have to try to skip trace that again and go on. I just want to set it, forget it, and not have to worry about, like, let's just spend the money now up front. And that part's been great. This year, I think, been almost no money in skip tracing. So it's,
yeah, that's wild, because just you kind of have your own private database at that point, which is pretty sweet.
All I do is push it against my current database, and I have probably about 95% of that list I just pulled already in the database. So
yeah, that is awesome. So that's in York County in Arizona. So what are you guys doing in terms of the national arm of the business? What does that look like?
Well, about a month and a half ago, I decided I wanted to kind of get more broader and try to go more nationwide, start picking some different states to go into. And I was like, well, what is the best way to do this? Really, the best way is to have the sellers come to you and do T. and get more online based. So that's been kind of my current journey for the last month and a half, 2 months, maybe 2 months. Up to now, I mean, I'm literally at night to about 9 or 10 o'clock studying PPC, going through, trying to figure out how it all makes sense. And it's a whole new skill set that I've been focusing on learning. So, but we are getting leads. We have deals in other markets now. And, I think he sold 2 deals. He sold 3 deals last week, I think. Well, one of them was another market. Yep. 2 was local. 1 was another market. So, it's starting to come to fruition a little bit now. I know there's still a lot of tweaking I need to do. I'm learning a lot about this whole PPC thing, but it's been fun. It's a whole new venture.
Well, I can tell, man, you have the personality for it. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely a personality type. If you look at it like it's sort of like a fun puzzle to solve where you get money at the end, which is pretty sweet. It's a pretty big, like payoff. It's interesting because, you were saying it's like you're always tweaking it. And the thing is like, and I think part of the reason that a lot of people drop out of it and part of the reason that like certain personalities are really attracted to doing it themselves is like, even when you dial it in, it doesn't stay dialed in forever. Like it's constantly changing, or it's like the stock market. It's like, you're never like, I got the stock market, like I nailed it. And, because it's like the economy goes up and down or whatever. So it's like, I was telling this story about like our own, we do ads for our own business, right? Obviously we do ads for real estate investors, but I was running Facebook ads forever to promote the agency. And the easiest place to get investors is Facebook. It's not AdWords, right? Like I like Google ads for sellers. For investors, I typically do use Facebook. So we're using Facebook. And this is where like I forgot my own advice, because I always say this, right? Like everything changes, you got to constantly be on it. At some point we were hitting like a 13 times return on investment on Facebook ads. So like I'll put in $1 and I'd get $13 out. That lasted for like 6 months. And I was like, I'm a genius. I'm an online marketing genius. Like I figured it out, like, and I just basically like retired in my head. I was like, I'm retired. It's fine. And then what happens? It stops working. It just stopped working, right? It wasn't like all once, but like over the course of a couple months, it kind of dropped off. And the whole time I kept being like, it'll come back. It'll come back. It'll come back. It'll come back. And then suddenly it kicked into me. And then I'm like, oh, right. Like, remember all those training videos you make where you tell people that they can't depend on you, have to constantly stay on top of it? And I'm like, right. And so but now it's like literally been like 4 or 5 months to try to bring it back. So it's you gotta like that, because it's a constant challenge, constant sense of having to grow, right? And it's like, if you're into it, man, it's a really fun ride. Well, and I wanted to bring you on because you guys are crushing it. You're doing awesome. Like you're expanding, and I think like right now it's such a time of uncertainty for so many investors. There's so much kind of, I don't want to say fear, because the investors that I talk to, it's not necessarily that they're afraid. It's more that they're just like, I have no idea what's going on, right? So for you guys, you're in. So first of all, like what's your area like in terms of the pandemic, like the sort of situation where like, are you guys locked down? Like what's your current situation just in terms of all that stuff?
Well, we're part of the whole nation lockdown. I think most of us are, except for like 7 states, what I read. Yeah, we're in lockdown. Only essential companies, services should be working right now. So we're lucky enough real estate is essential. So we are still working. And, the biggest thing we saw is that we saw, as soon as immediately this happened, because it happened almost overnight to us, right? To all of us. It was like crazy. We woke up one morning, it was like, crap, COVID-19. And then everyone stopped buying. Like the buyers was like, it was ridiculous. So we went the first couple of weeks, we're probably outselling a deal, but it was like, really, it's like, okay, I talked to my team. I said, we need to start buying these deals extremely deep. And it's the only way we're going to still survive through this is if we get these deals. Before, we were dispoing deals about 78 cents on a dollar here in Phoenix locally, depending on repairs or whatever. But the app 78 dollar, we saw minimum. I was like, okay, 10% off that. We got to, dispoing to try to get some of these buyers to buy, still 10% less than what we're already doing. So we started sending some of our deals out, way under our contract price, just knowing if we can get a buyer locked in, then we'll go and renegotiate with the seller. So we did a lot of that. It's kind of backwards wholesaling almost. And that's how we're kind of getting through this now. Now it's, we're seeing I think that the buyers are coming back out a little bit again. Like I said, we sold 3 deals last week. We got 5 contracts last week, sold 3 of them, had 2 closings. So we had a very successful week last week. And it's, right here in the midst of the pandemic. And I would say it was just, pivoting about knowing that we're going to be going in. A lot of these deals will be getting canceled. A lot of these buyers are not going to be buying, and just understanding that going in. And now we have to really buy deeper than ever than we ever needed to going forward. So until these.
That's interesting. So you're hedging because you're basically saying, look, certain percentage of these deals that would have gone through, let's say a year ago, are no longer going to go through. So you're going to hedge that by essentially saying all the deals that we acquire, we've got to acquire at a steeper discount, right? Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And I'm making my team, they use the whole COVID-19 as an excuse in their negotiations on why they're needing such, a deep discount on the deal. So,
well, it's true. Right? It's not even an excuse. It's the actual truth, right? Yeah.
So using it as leverage for everything right now. So
yeah. Do you find that sellers are open to that? Because it's like, this is something that someone was telling me, like, this was a guy I had a conversation with, really smart dude, runs a very big financial planning firm. And he was saying, we were just having this kind of conversation about business and, getting ready for all this stuff. And he was saying, look, he's like, if you've been putting off making kind of tough decisions in your business, because it's like, look, you're cutting people's pay, you're letting people go, like whatever it is, whatever that decision is, this is the time to do it. Not only because you kind of have to do it now, but also because people are much more understanding, right? Because most people get that, I'm not cutting into the business so that I can then go buy like a Ferrari or a Tesla or something, right? There's a reason for it. Do you find that in conversations with what are your conversations with sellers?
I mean, the conversations are staying in the same course. We use the very John Martinez in all our scripting, but I mean, it's just, you're dropping.
John is awesome.
Yeah. You're sprinkling in throughout the whole conversation, the pandemic and COVID-19, and making sure that they're very aware of the situation. But we are still buying. But for us as investors, we have to be hedging ourselves too, and protecting us and our partners in the purchases of these properties to make sure that we're able to get the job done and able to perform for them and not want to cancel on them. And that's kind of how we structure every conversation. It's still John Martinez style stuff that we're using, but just sprinkle that COVID-19 all throughout the conversation.
Yeah, John Martinez, friend of the show, awesome dude, very smart dude, very giant buff dude.
Yeah,
he makes me angry all the time that he's just somehow works from home and is ripped, and I'm not. But so the thing I wanted to ask is, so have you gotten much concern from sellers about people coming out to the house, stuff like that? How are you guys handling that part of the actual physical logistics of running the business?
That part's it wasn't really a big deal for us because we've been virtual for the last year anyways. Even here locally, we're mainly virtual. We're about 95% virtual. They're always saying, hey, how can you buy my house without seeing? Well, hey, Mr. Seller, we buy about 10 to 20 houses a month. We know what we're paying just based off pictures, and we can make you a fair cash offer just based on pictures. We'll have them send us a picture, and then all our documentation is done through e-sign or DocuSign, and
yeah,
it's a very simple process, the virtual model, and we're continuing that. And now, if they're wanting us to come to the house, we're like, hey, listen, seller, at these uncertain times, we don't really like going out looking at houses, just being COVID-19. We can absolutely buy your house right over pictures and make this deal work for you. So it's we've been virtual before this. I would say if you're a wholesale company that's not virtual, this is a great time to get virtual because it really can, be the reason that you're transitioning. So
yeah, I think there's, I've been kind of thinking about this, right? Looking for. Look, I mean, being frank, right? There aren't a whole lot of upsides to the situation that the world is currently in, right? It's pretty bad, but that you can find upsides for it, right? And my friend kind of made this point recently, which is that pretty much in any period of disorder, there are positive adaptations that come out of it, right? That's been the case pretty much everything that's happened. And so, the thing that I can kind of look out and see for investors is that, man, what an incredibly powerful incentive. And like by incentive, I mean, kind of mean like a gun to your head, but incredibly powerful incentive to get with the program and update your marketing and update how you work your business and streamline and make yourself cost efficient and all these things. Because, it's like, I forget what, I'm going to mess up this saying, but there's this saying where it's like, like bad times make tough people and tough people make good times. And then good times make weak people and weak people make bad times. So it's like this kind of thing where it's like I messed that up. But anyway, the whole idea is like the rough environment makes you get better at what you do and figure it out, right? And like you said, it's like your business is 95% virtual. You were there to take advantage of it. But if someone's listening to this and they're like, well, I wasn't 95% virtual. Hey, now we all got a bunch of free time. Like we might as well figure it out, right? There's no reason your business has to shut down right now. Or I should say your business doesn't have to shut down right now purely because you can't necessarily just get out to the house. There are ways to do that, right? So yeah, I think that's incredibly powerful kind of things that you guys are doing. And I think you guys are just adapting so well. It really blows me away.
Yeah. And we did a couple of other things too. We got rid of some of the cold calling that we were doing. It was our worst ROI as far as all our marketing streams. So, we trimmed some fat in certain places. Like I had a kind of a problem employee, not really a problem employee, but it was like, she was always on like, oh, should I let her go? Should I not let her go? And like,
yeah, not full on capital P problem, but
like, just what
borderline. Yeah.
So it did that for us too. So, but
yeah, man. Well, let me ask you. I know I don't want to keep you super long. I want to make sure that we wrap this up within time. But so, something that I've heard from a lot of investors, it's a lot of concern about buyers. You mentioned buyers kind of, early on in your thing that kind of went away. Now they seem to be coming back. How are you thinking about kind of maintaining your kind of current crop of buyers? How are you treating those relationships? Are you worried about it? What's your take on that part of the market?
Yeah, I mean, we're not overly worried about it because they're still buyers. No matter what, people will be buying, no matter what. But the buyers that we do have, I have my disposition manager reaching out to them, having conversations with them, talking to them, see how this is affecting their business, their lives. So this is a relationship type business. Reach out to these people that you've done business with before in the past, and sold deals to, and have conversations with them. And that was huge, so he's been doing a lot of that. And, it's just, like I said, there's always buyers. And then no matter what market it's in, there'll be some time less. And just keep their and have conversations. Some of them are telling you, yeah, we're still looking, but not yet, right? It's like, okay, cool. They're still a buyer. They bought from us before, to keep that with conversation with them. Yeah. So because they will be buying in the future. So.
Yeah, man. Well, I think you guys are just doing an incredible job. If you are listening to this and you want to check out what Corey is doing, again, the website is True Top Offer, which is spelled TRU, topoffer.com. I'm going to link to his website. I'm also going to link to his national website. And you can get the show notes for this episode and everything at adwordsnerds.com/podcast. But Corey, I just want to say thank you, man. I think it's super, super useful for people to hear what you're doing. And I think you guys are just absolutely crushing it out there. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming on and sharing your experience with the audience, man. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the REI Marketing Nerds podcast. Look, if you are not in our Facebook group, you should get there. You can get there by going to adwordsnerds.com/group. That's adwordsnerds.com/group, the REI Marketing Nerds Facebook group. We are in there every single day, posting, answering questions, helping people out. It is the place to be. And like I said before at the top of the show, hope you are doing well. Hope you are happy and healthy. If you need anything, hit us up, adwordsnerds.com. We'll be happy to help you out. We're trying to extend a helping hand to pretty much anybody that we can, regardless of whether we end up working together or not. So adwordsnerds.com is the place to go and do that. But I will talk to you next week. And I hope you're feeling good. I hope you are in a good place right now. I hope you are feeling in control. And look, it's a weird time for all of us. It's a weird time in our lives, but just know that I'm thinking about you, and I hope you're doing well. All right, talk to you next week. Bye.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.